Pet. It's Pet on Brands. What are you branded?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the episode of the Pet on Brands Dialogues. Today we're talking about everything cars. If you love cars like I do, this is definitely the right show that you're tuning on right now. Actually, I just want to tell you a bit of a story, how I know these two gentlemen, Sala and Khulekani on Wheels. Actually, the first time I ever heard of Khulekani on Wheels, I was actually attending an event in, it was in Centurion, I think. And it was a Nissan event. I went with a friend of mine there. I was just taking along and I met one of the guys there and they were like doing car reviews and they're getting cars every week. I was like, damn, is that possible? How is it possible that someone who's not backed up by a large media platform be able to get to do car reviews and stuff like that? And these guys just told me, look, it's easy. You find the contact details online of these guys that work for car companies. And yeah.
Hi, everyone. Just welcome. Thanks, Pet, for having us. Thanks to those who have joined. Truly appreciate it to just hear from us and also maybe pick up one or two pointers about how to start your car brand. Yeah, Pet, it's been a bit of a while since we've known you. We've seen your brand grow.
Yeah.
And we've seen petting and stepping other brands, which is an interesting story in its own. Anyway, from our side, really, my name is Khulekani Dumisa. Those of you who don't know me, I am from a town that trended about a week or two ago on Twitter, Fryhead. Yes, quite a few of us, and there's no Woolies supermarket to get that out of the way. Anyway, I grew up in Fryhead, born and bred there, and then I matriculated there. I went to UKZN to do law. I did my LLB and my master's in law. I then started practicing law in Durban and then moved to Johannesburg, studied a bit. And then Sala and I joined forces to start Khulekani on Wheels. So I'll just hand over to sort of Sala to introduce himself. Just some apologies to those who are on Instagram. Sala is live on Zoom, but we can only accommodate two people on live on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, you will hear Sala's audio.
Yo, Sala.
Thanks for that, brother Khulekani. I'm from Friday as well, born and raised in that small town that doesn't have Woolies or Woolies food. But yeah, I did my primary and high school education there. I think growing up I was very fond of sports, and this is probably primarily because of my older brother, who was just a sports legend in my eyes. When I matriculated, I actually moved to UP to play sports and study sports management again. This is because of my brother. After that, I moved over to UJ to do a diploma in accounting, completed that, and I went over to Richards Bay to work for a telecommunications company, and I moved back to Joburg to start working for finance companies. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I actually met this brother, Khulekani, only in Joburg. Imagine, we're from the same age.
Yeah, interesting.
And they've always wanted us to meet, but we never met. But yeah, I think we met in 2015, 2016, and that's when we started Khulekani on Wheels.
Cool. So, yeah, the name Khulekani on its own, one would think that it's Khulegani's sort of baby. And can you just take me through the process of deciding the name on its own, like the brand name that is going to be Khulekani on Wheels? And why not Sala on Wheels? Because I know Sala is also on top. So
No
how did that come about?
You see, it's an empire, ne? There's Khulekani on Wheels, there's Sala on top, there's Amanda, there's Usile, a cousin Pixel. There's one big empire. Anyway,
great.
literally after like a couple of days of saying, look, let's start this. I mean, me thinking, let's start this and speaking to Salah.
Yeah.
I said, well, and Salah, like it was like, oh, that's cool. We then thought about your ackerman. People wouldn't know that it's someone's surname,
Absolutely.
And we're like, it's the neck, it stands out. There's nothing like it. So let's go for this, Also, quite sometimes, it's not easy to pronounce. So you spend a few minutes pronouncing it, and then by the time you're done, it's stuck in your head.
Yeah.
So that's how the name came about. That's how we landed on the name.
Okay.
And it started with the brand around it. And quite always interesting to see some people getting around the name, but that's why we settled on it.
Great. So what made you guys start?
So like most people, I mean, we love cars, but before that, to take one or two steps back, before I always, there were these magazines they used to publish. You'd get them for free at like Checkers and everywhere. They had like a lot of cars. So I'd look at cars and see how they cost and how they compare. And I'd give that feedback to my parents, to like relatives who were looking at buying cars. And I was like, have you thought of it? I always wanted to be part of that process. Now, and then obviously ended up seeing what Jeremy Clarkson, reading your car mags, and knowing about the various people around. And then, but I just felt like the conversation wasn't happening on social. All was happening on social. Like in my family, for example, I was a first generation car owner. So when I picked up an article, obviously I took a keen interest on cars.
Sure.
But I had to have a fair level of understanding on how, cars work and stuff. And I said, like, it's easy to communicate with people where they are on social and communicate the way people communicate, speak like the guy next to you, relatable. So that was the thinking. But when we started, we didn't know there was something called motoring journalism, really.
Yeah.
I just thought you go to the dealership and you ask them, can I, like members of the public, can I test drive a car? You ask your relatives, to lend your cars. And by I think Tineo was the social media manager at Peugeot.
Yeah.
He offered us to review Peugeot 208, which is like only yesterday. And I didn't know who she was. So I said, hey, I don't know. Is Peugeot staying in the country or they living? So, no, I'm the brand manager. They are staying.
Okay.
But like, that's our relationship. She didn't pull the car. She allowed us to review it. Okay. And a month later, we were on a Suzuki launch. We met Sephora, which most of you will be familiar with at Ignition.
Yeah.
Justin Jacobs, auto dealer. Basically, they handed me the textbook on how to make the approaches and fine tune what we're doing. So, but basically, it was just the need to break down car conversations, to make them relatable, to put them on social, and make people just make people's choices of finding cars much simpler. On the like not complicated, straight to the point. And with the feedback we've gotten so far, I think it has worked.
Fantastic, man. It's interesting that you guys started off with Peugeot just when there were so many questions around its existence in this country, So what were some of the challenges that you guys faced when you were starting out?
I think when we started, as Khulekani has mentioned, we didn't know that one day we would be journalists. We went from 1 car to 5 cars, and like boom, we've got this thing, and now we need to grow this thing. So what we did is added more people into the team. As Khulekani said, we've got Amanda, we've got Clive, we've got Otsile, and they've actually helped us, grow. Pume as well. Pume as well. Pume on travels. So I mean, we've had quite a number of people that have also grown, to build their own platforms as well that are doing well. So that for us was the biggest challenge, to grow the platform. But the people that we added helped us immensely in growing the platform.
Oh, great, man. So when someone actually sent a question when they were signing up, they were like, what are some of the costs involved in starting something like you guys started?
I think, because we are mostly on social, our biggest, cost was data. I mean, if you're going to a launch, you need data. If we've got cars to review, you need data to post on our different platforms. And
that's why data must fall.
Amandla. But I think from there, then what happened when we started growing the team, travel cost also crept up. You need to go to the airports. So there will be your petrol going to the airport, the Gautrain.
And parking at the airport.
At the airport. that's another
Can I tell you a funny story? Because I did my first car launch in when was it? The Isuzu launch, the 250 D-Max. So usually when I go to the airport, I ask someone to drop me off. And I drove there. I thought because it's just one night, I was gonna pay something like 200 rands at most. And I ended up paying like 400 rands, man. So yeah, that's a cost. That's a real hard cost.
Yeah, I think another cost associated with it is, as much as, and other people will not get this, using cell phones for photography, not going too much on edit, it's deliberate from our part because we want the experience to be as relatable to someone who follows us. We want them to feel like they can emulate it, enjoy their car. But sometimes, you engage talent, you work with photographers, videographers, and you've got to find budget for the shoot. Or, you want to do something pretty cool. You want to travel to the Northwest because you want to get some nice shots. So you've got to have budget for talent, and that's a big cost. And also, if businesses come in, obviously any business needs capital. The content creation, or we need to do some digital marketing for clients. So those costs associated with talent retention, data, as Salah has said. So those were the costs that you have to keep in mind when doing something like this. We're obviously fortunate that we don't publish a magazine. So other than our website, which is fairly cheap to maintain every month, we don't have those high overheads.
Cool. So now, at what point did you guys decide to make a business out of this? Like, what happened for you guys to start saying, okay, this thing, not here sevens, I know.
I think we always knew from the get-go that there were opportunities because, being on the platform we're in, doing car stories, the way we're doing car stories, we knew that we were building a platform, and like a magazine, it's going to have real estate, for would-be advertisers would have to come in and work with us. And also we looked at the value chain and said, there are gaps, for Black players, for young players, for innovative people. There's certainly a lot of stuff they can contribute to the conversation, to, certain buyers. Like, I'm telling you this for free, but there's a big Black women audience that's buying buckets. So if you are listening, you're here, and you want to champion that, we'll see you smiling all the way to the bank. So we knew that the value chain had opportunities for us, but we obviously had to build a brand, build credibility, make people believe us, and make people know that we could deliver. So to answer your question, we knew we could make money out of it, or we could monetize it. But obviously, we got our big break, I think in 2017. A client reached out and said, I like your idea. Let's do it. And we did that project with a few cars, and we've never looked back ever since.
Okay, cool. That sounds interesting.
Apparently, there's a bit of echo on your side there, Pat.
Yeah?
There's a bit of echo on your side.
My mic. Shit. Because the mic on on the computer is off, so I don't know.
I think, Sala, if you try to mute yourself, it works better, maybe. Cool. I think we're better now.
But the problem is me.
Let's carry on.
The problem is Pat in this instance. Someone saying Pat
people
can't hear you. Huh?
Someone said they can't hear Pat.
I'm sure now they can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we just have to keep it flowing. Like the water. Okay, cool. So knowing what you know right now, is there something that you guys wish you could have done differently when you started?
I think when we started across all platforms, which is Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, but we predominantly focused on Instagram, and it actually just wasn't by choice. We wanted to perfect one platform and then move to the next, and we started moving to Instagram, Twitter about 2 years ago, and we've just grown amazingly. Our engagement is quite well. I mean, we've got 13,600 followers right now, and we put on anything and people engage with it. I think initially when we started, we could have, pushed it more and focused on it more. As well, we've had calls to go on YouTube. And, the reason why we probably didn't go on YouTube when we initially started is the same reason as well. We wanted to perfect a platform, then move it across, then move it across, then move it across. But pre-lockdown, we had plans, to push the YouTube, and, fortunately...
You're giving away too much here, Sala.
Hey, Khulekani likes keeping things watertight.
We're coming for everything, Baba. We are coming for everything.
Give people what they want to hear.
What they want to hear. So I think
I can't take off my jacket.
once things move to
I can't take off my jacket because I'm not wearing a t-shirt.
Sorry, Aman, intellectual property. But yeah, once we move, out of the lockdown, we'll start looking at YouTube as well.
Yeah, but also I think what we've done, and to add to Sala, I mean, it's always being deliberate and adding something that's not there, and not just being a number and being counted. We don't want to do that. And there are people who are in the space, for example, YouTube, who are in the space and doing amazing stuff so far. And when we come, we think what we will bring will be quite compelling, and people will find it quite useful. So watch that space. That's probably the next curve. There's a bit of thinking around TikTok, but for car consumers, making it interesting. Someone has raised that to see if we can partner and do something around TikTok. We'll see what a review or a car concept looks like around that. But innovation is certainly, and we're constantly looking. So how we do it is we look at the trends in the car space and then see how we can align our platforms or be a step or two ahead. So people are going to be buying their cars quite a bit online. So people are going to be buying their cars quite a bit online, and we need to make sure that we are there and we helping with that process and we helping meet that demand.
Khulekani, people say they can't hear you. I don't know what you did to your mic. They say they can't hear you on Instagram.
Yeah.
Did you make any changes?
There are no changes on my side. I've just increased the volume.
Pat, you might have messed up the sound.
I think you've muted us on Instagram.
Is that possible?
Yes.
No.
Just check.
We can't hear you properly. Khulekani, son.
Let me just do this quickly.
You're gonna jump in again. So Khulekani is gonna jump in again. So If you can just bear with us. Who is Pearl?
Okay.
I can see he's still connected.
Sorry for guys on Zoom. We're just having some Instagram issues. Okay, I think that sorted out.
Yeah, cool, man. So, any highlights ever since you started? You know, what?
Sorry, just to go back, Pat. I think that question where people asked, and I think we're now good on Instagram. You know, Pat asked us if we could have done things differently, and Salah answered and said, you know, yes and sort of no, because we started on Instagram to just perfect what we were doing. And then we moved on to the other platforms, Twitter and Facebook, because we knew we had a formula that worked. We just tweaked it a bit for that platform. And XCare, for example, is YouTube, growing our website, maybe TikTok, but we don't want to do that just for the sake of it. We want, I think someone's saying I must move the phone away from the mic, so I've tried to move it a bit. It's a bit far. We just want to be quite deliberate with whatever we do. So we look at trends, we then see how we can meet the demand in the trend and how we can make the process simple for consumers. So if you know people need, like right now on lockdown, people are buying cars online. I think Mercedes-Benz started this, BMW is now pushing it. Other people have these tools that are, you know, they're exploring to sell cars online. But how do we then tap into that as people are playing also in the digital space to make the process easier for the consumer? What do our reviews look like when we're launching a car on Zoom or Skype? And how then do we, obviously, I mean, cars are things you experience and consumers need to experience them, but how do we sort of make the process more relatable and more useful for people to then make their decisions much better?
Cool stuff, man. And speaking of which, in terms of brands moving online, and I think that's where the future is. And you guys have the right formula for it, you know. And you're not gonna shock us when you start showing us more experience.
I might be the only one that was a bit of an echo.
Say that again.
It was a bit of an echo, but I might be the only one experiencing.
Because I see Salah switched off his mic. Maybe if you do the same when I talk.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect. You can go on with the next question.
Yeah, so I was asking, like, what has been your biggest highlight in this journey?
Okay. I mean, my basically, I think we all have to mute our mics when one person is speaking.
But I think the problem is this guy. This guy is the problem. Guys,
we blame the host. But if you could mute us, Pat, I think the highlight basically, Pat, is if you look at this thing from a 360-degree perspective, is just to be able to look at a platform that's very useful. Remember, when we started, we wanted to simplify conversation. We wanted consumers to find value. And we've measured that by the feedback we've gotten from consumers, where they basically, people, you know, when people DM you and say thank you, or tag you and say, look, I bought this car, thank you for your help, even if they haven't bought the car that you recommended. But, you know, it's a big process outside of buying your house. And if you're not going to buy a house, this is a very big purchase. So for someone to say, look, thank you very much for guiding me in the right direction. I've got my car, you know, and I'm happy. So that for me has been one of the highlights. And also just starting the platforms and seeing them grow, that's been great. Personally, being a judge on Cars.co Awards, Consumer Awards, that's also been a highlight. and also how the industry has reacted, colleagues, fellow journalists and colleagues in the sense like the PR managers and marketing managers. That's been great, and the feedback they've given our platform, sometimes to challenge us to grow in certain areas. And obviously, I mean, the great cars that we get to experience. I mean, we're also petrol heads. From the smallest car. I mean, and I know people would not look forward to driving a Touch and Go, but there's a history behind the brand, and to see where it is. Your Suzuki Swift, to see how the underdog, can change the game. Because obviously, I mean, when you're a petrol head, it's not just, it's the history behind the brand, their journey in South Africa, the consumer journey, and all of those things. So obviously, everyone loves to drive a G63. That's also been great. Traveling overseas with the brand and bringing stories from. I'm about to ask you about the travel. Yeah, bringing stories from Albania, man. That's been incredible. So that for me has been some of the highlights.
Great, man. So, any tips on how someone can get started?
I think how they
can just start their own.
I was muted there. Sorry, the pet.
Zoom on cars. Can you hear me?
I think, yeah, sure. I think the critical thing is you've got to ask why you are starting your car brand. You've got to, are you going into this like us? We went in for the consumer to bring car stories. Why are you've got to ask yourself, why am I going into this? Am I going in for the consumer? Am I going in to because I like to create content? Am I going in because I love driving cars? Or am I going in because of another virtue that I have? Or do you want to create an employment opportunity for you? I think sound is gone again. Okay, I think the question that was asked was why, how do you go about starting your own car brand? And my response is started with the question, and because if you've asked that question and then you answer it, everything falls into place. So the question is, why are you getting into it? Are you getting into it for the consumer like us? Or are you getting into it because you love driving cars? And there are no right or wrong answers, or are you getting into it because you like creating content? There are people who make exceptional content, and I'm not going to mention anyone because people might think I have favorites. Or are you getting into it to create an employment opportunity for yourself? And once you've answered the why, then you obviously need to choose the right platform. Are you going to go on Instagram? Are you going to go on Facebook? Are you starting a blog? Are you going to go on YouTube? Or are you doing all of them? And also because you asked the question initially, why are you doing it? Then you'll know who your audience is. You'll know how to create content for them. And then obviously people will react the way you'd like them to react because you have identified your audience and you're giving your audience what they need. And then, you'll see your platforms growing because you've asked those questions. And also you then have to, once you've obviously built this brand, we say brand, but you don't have to obviously give it brand identity, your logo, as we, some people see your website and the look and feel of your brand. Those are obviously things you can control, to give your brand identity, start your platforms, and then you start creating the content. And then you obviously have to think about the sustainability of your brand. Obviously, if you're creating content, you need the equipment. Who's going to buy the equipment? Are you going to finance it, or are you hoping that your platforms will finance those endeavors for you? You've got to think, about those things. Or will you grow enough of an audience then and start approaching the right people to then, advertise with your audience? Or are you going to partner up with brands to create content? There are various ways in which you can make the brand, your platform or brand sustainable. There's no right or wrong answer. Or are you going to then replicate what you do for your own platforms for other people? Because some brands don't know what we do to do what we do every day. Or sometimes they lack some of the content that we do, or it's far too expensive for them to create that content. So there are various ways that you can do, that you can explore to make your brand then sustainable, so that obviously you keep on doing what you do. But there's a lot of scope. I mean, there's a lot of scope for new players, for people who are bringing fresh content to come into the space, and not just, obviously focus on the big brands. I think there are very few people who do, for example, dealers, who cover dealers, and that's a space to cover. There are very few people. If you look at Doug DeMuro, for example, who would review a car from 1980 that we all love. In South Africa, no one is doing that, and there's scope for it. There's content, there's context for it. For example, the cheap one, First Gen 5 Series from 3 years ago, that people are still buying, and also there are interesting stats that are published about popular second-hand cars. Why don't you pick up that list and just produce that content? So, and then obviously partner up with people who are going to help you sustain your brand whilst doing that. And finally, I think once you've set up these platforms, obviously be mindful of the fact that it's very serious. Respect the craft. They are very, public. No, it's true. The public depends on your opinion and depends on what you say. And there are people who, once you bring the space into disrepute, obviously there are people who get paid, who make a living out of this. And once you bring negativity to the space, it affects everyone. It affects the brand, it affects the consumer confidence, and it affects your brand. And another thing that comes into mind, I came across a tweet. Someone said, I'm going to screen grab everything influencers and people who push brands on Twitter say, and I'm going to send it to brands. You cannot be an influencer and troll. You've got to choose your battle. And that's key. If you are, for example, if I decide, we've tried to do, to make the brand platforms standalone platforms, but people can draw the line, whether you like it or not. It's got my name, how I see myself as an impact of the brand. People sometimes experience the brand purely based on who I am, purely based on who Sala is. So you've got to be cognizant of how you position your personal platforms if you're going to use them as an outlet for pushing car brands. So you can't today be talking about someone must fall and then tomorrow telling us to buy the latest Peugeot 308. It just can't work. You've got to be careful.
But also on that point, I think personally, look, there's no perfect brand, and I cover a wide variety of brands, and whether it's motoring, whether it's an FMCG product, whether it's a lifestyle brand, and brands suck sometimes, and someone needs to tell them, and also they say a wise man always changes his mind. So if today I say VW is hot and tomorrow I change the statement, that's life. But also someone needs to call brands to order, if I have to say so.
No, that's true, Pat. And I think honestly, especially, I think consumers and from the petrolhead community, some people feel strongly about us holding brands accountable and being honest about how we experience brands and what brands are doing. And we've got to do that. There's no two ways about it. But what I'm speaking more about is, once you've assumed this, like you, Pat, you pet and you flip brands, and you're a trusted person to hold brands accountable, but obviously you can't dilute your brand, and then make people lose confidence in what you do. So by engaging in discussions that undermine authority as an arbiter for how brands behave and how they conduct themselves. But certainly, we've got to keep brands accountable and honest.
Absolutely.
When we experience that.
Cool, great answers, guys. I hope people did take some notes. The reason why I created this platform and this one particular invited you guys rather is that a lot of people have been asking me how do they get into space, you know? And I said, I'm not an expert in cars, but I know people that do way better than I do. And that's why I called you in. So after this episode, I don't expect anyone to be asking me questions. Yo, Pat, how do I get in? How do I get cars? Blah, blah, blah. All right. So now we're going to move into the second part of today's dialogue. So we're going to talk about calming.
Before we move on, I mean, just maybe we haven't answered that question. I think obviously it takes a while for you to build yourself up to a point where you can be trusted with cars. You know, they're very expensive assets, and if you think about it, with my experience as a lawyer, I mean, obviously someone has to insure there's cars and take on the risk. And for bigger publications, you might find that somewhere, somehow, they can cover the risk should something happen and should the brand not be able to pick up that risk. So it takes a while for you to build up your reputation before brands can trust you with their assets. However, you still have various other avenues for you to access cars. And sometimes, you know, the spotter community, for example, is exceptional in doing this. They you know, you meet someone, you strike a conversation, you ask them to check out the exterior of the car, you know, you get views, you also look, feel and touch, or you go to a dealership, or you go, we just need to be innovative. And the more people get into the space, no matter how big you are as a Khulekani or as a car or whoever you are, sometimes there just aren't enough cars to go around. So we all have to find innovative ways of getting around that issue. And also, if we all want to be telling the consumer about that latest car, look, I'm not going to wait until I'm number 30. I'm going to find a creative way of speaking about that car before it even gets to me and helping the consumer. So yes, you can reach out to brands, and once they trust you, they'll let you in. But be creative as well. And also, don't limit your conversation with brands and the consumer to when you are driving the latest car. I mean, like for example, we're on lockdown. Brands have been at pains to calm consumers down and say, if you need to be servicing your car, don't worry, we'll extend. We'll help you with other things. We'll extend your warranty. Sorry. So also talk about those things. They help consumers, and you still in the conversation. You're still keeping relevant, even though you're not driving a car.
Cool, man. Actually, on that note, saying brands need to be keeping consumers calm in this time, particularly when if your service plan is about to run out or is going to run out this month, you know, that extension and sort of. So what is it that people need to be doing to keep their cars in top condition, and that when the lockdown is over and people can drive their cars again? So what is it that people need to be looking out for?
I think, Pat, you've covered this as well on your site. We've also covered it extensively on our website, khulekaniwheels.com. But basically what you can do, I'll just, give you a high level of it, is try and keep the battery charged, fill up your tank whenever you can, be mindful of where you're parking as well, whether it's raining, whether it's sunshine, just be careful of that and try and keep the car clean. And when it's time to move, some may be moving tomorrow on Friday and some may be moving later. What you can do is just go around the car, sort of check if the tires aren't flat, check on your sidewalls for bumps, check the wipers, check the headlights, the rear lights, and then start up your car and go. And if you can, if you're close to a garage, just also go and check your tire pressure before you drive long distances. Of course, some of us, could move. I move to go and get essential services. So it keeps my battery charged, I don't have to sort of start it up almost every day. I just move whenever I need to go and move. So yeah, those are the things I think you can do to make sure that your car is up and running when lockdown is done.
Just for those who are coming through via Instagram, Salah's just gone through tips of taking care of your car. We've published top 10 tips on our website for you to check out. So what Salah was saying about just keeping your battery charged, checking your tires and keeping your car clean, and making sure it's pulled up. Those tips are um, on our website. So I'm just reconnecting. I've got a bit of poor connection. Let me just fix that. Cool. I think the next point we're going to discuss is just finance. I think so I mean, just some tips on finance around this time. Some companies, you know, if you look at your loan agreements, there's life cover for that. And if you go out to your to your provider to whoever gave you the loan, you can check whether it covers times like this during like the lockdown, if you're covered for that period, so that they breach the payments and you don't have to pay. It's not usual in the motoring market, but it's worth your while to pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm financed with you guys. You know, do we have this tool for me? It will take a few minutes, and it could be a yes that saves you. Another point, obviously, to take into account is some companies we've noticed, Ford, for example, is offering payment holidays. So we anticipate that products will come across the market where you can ask for a payment holiday. We do strongly recommend that you don't exercise this option unless you desperately need to, and wait for really rainy days, because we don't know where the economy is going to go. So if you're still being paid at 100 to 90% and you can still afford to pay, just on Instagram, are we still good?
Yeah, the sound is cutting.
My apologies. But if you
Oh, wow. We've seemed to lost Khulekani on this side.
you need to exercise your payment holiday. I think, Sally, you're gonna need to make me a host again on Zoom. And then finally, this, as everyone would have realized, the repo rate and interest rates have gone down on 2 occasions. So this might be a good time to shop for a new bank and get your car refinanced. Again, you know, look at the fine print. Are you really getting a better deal, or have you just ended more time to the life of your loan? But it might be a good time to pick up the phone and call your bank manager or a would-be new bank manager and say, hey, keen to move my portfolio, what can you guys offer me? Conversation that happens all the time. Or if you're looking at buying and you know employment is secure and everything, it's a good time to go and be proactive, approach your bank and negotiate a good rate. You know, some banks, for example, the bank I bank with, they would offer you prime minus something, and I'd be curious to see if I were to pick up the phone now, how low they could go below prime. So those are strategies you can employ to just be okay during the lockdown.
But also, does that not mean that you have a good credit score?
Of course, I mean, finance is a very personal thing. I know Nicolette, Nicolette, yeah. She's going to be actually dropping a book pretty soon. Of course, I mean, everything depends on your score and how you've paid. I mean, for example, your bank might not give you the payment holiday if your score is low, or, you know, it will depend. Obviously, this is not a solution that might work for everyone. Some people it might not work for them.
Cool. Actually, I just want us now to move on to insurance. You know, car insurance is a huge part of owning a car. It's a huge expense. What conversations should motorists start having, or car owners start having with their insurance companies, if any, or what is it that they need to be looking out for?
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, people, for example, some people are on pay as you go. Last month, people did very little driving. It's worth your while to see if all that was due to you came through. It's worth your while also talking to your insurer and asking them, are we on reduced rates now that people are not driving? And, you know, maybe they are, and maybe it's a question of, it's a question of them just, you know, responding to each. I think I might be having issues on Instagram, but maybe it's a question of just you picking up the phone and then negotiating your own I'm sort of reduced rate. Let's just
We just
see.
froze on Instagram.
Let me just try and rejoin there. Sorry, everyone. I think we're back now. I think we're good now. So as I was saying, on the insurance part, you know, if you're on pay as you go, ask your insurer, you know, have I received all I'm supposed to receive? Two, just check if the insurer is not giving everyone a reduced rate, because people are not driving far. You know, some insurers will ask about this, you know, and it might be that
perhaps you jump off and you start again.
Yeah.
On Instagram.
Okay.
I think I just saw a question now or a comment now on Instagram saying maybe cancel your insurance.
Yeah.
No. So we're gonna get to canceling your insurance.
That's not a wise
no. I'm trying to fix the Instagram too.
Itani, people should not cancel their insurance, please, man.
So Pez, I've just sent a request to join you.
Yeah.
Itani, people should not cancel their insurance, please, man. Yes. Yeah.
And then someone saying, Itani, yeah, you are right, comrade.
Yeah. So I'm just waiting for 2 seconds. Sorry to the guys on Zoom. Just waiting for 2 seconds to be back. Yeah, cool. I think we're good on Instagram. So guys on insurance, I wouldn't necessarily recommend, you know, people have said, why don't you just keep that car? So insurance, one, we wouldn't recommend that you cancel your insurance. You don't know when you might forget and jump into your car or need your car. You know, we under a pandemic, you don't know when you might get the pandemic or when you might have an emergency and need to drive somewhere. And tell you what, I've driven out of the house to grab essential services. I thought driving manners would improve. No, actually, you know, I was shocked. Like people are still driving like they were driving before the lockdown. So it's highly risky to cancel your insurance. You might get into an accident. You might just through your own fault, you know, damage your car. So don't do that. Two, just reducing your cover to third party. What if your car is stolen? I mean, we had a case where a bakkie was stolen from Woodmead in Macro. You know, that person you know, in all probabilities, especially during the lockdown, they wouldn't have anticipated their car being stolen. I mean, who goes out for essentials and steals a car?
Sure.
I mean, so don't do that, you know, so keep your insurance. But do call your finance providers, your insurers to see if they aren't offering anything. And you know, as the nature of business, as people went buying cars, so business on their side is also low. So they might be keen to actually give you a better, instead of canceling, instead of going, they might be keen to give you a better preferential rate. So this might be a good time to actually reach out and say, hey man, you know, what can you do for me?
Cool. I think those are solid answers that you gave there. Someone saying you cancel it, then you speak to the retention department. Then, you know, they'll sort you out again. We're going to start taking some questions on Instagram and on Zoom. You guys can start typing your questions. But there's one from Zoom already, Jazza, asking, what has been your most compelling challenge in this industry?
Salah, do you want to grab that one?
Salah, look, you're mute.
You can go for it, Coach.
I think for me the biggest challenge really wasn't more the industry. We've been quite fortunate, you know, with our position and how hard we've worked and our standing in the industry. It was for me when I was still you know, working as a practicing lawyer, balancing being in the industry and also being in law, because obviously as it's a push and pull. As you get to more lists of cars, of launches, of trips and everything, people depend on you as well, you know. People see you, some people see you as a key media, and for you to be there all the time. So we were fortunate, we had a team, we had people also that we trust, you know, outside of our core team that we could, and that's another thing, we've never seen people as competitors. So we've been able to pick up the phone and ask someone and collaborate with someone and say, hey, can you please cover us at this launch? Or can you give us content at that launch? Which has been incredible. Or can we rely on you to share the content if you're not representing us? And that's been great.
Okay. So Itani, aka Mr. Counselor Insurance, is asking a question saying it's around refinancing your car. Is it a matter of asking another bank to settle that loan for you, or how does it work?
Well, yeah, if your existing bank actually can refinance that product. I mean, but they'll have little incentive to give you new finance. So you can extend the term and get into a new loan with new rates notionally. Say they like your portfolio and they want to retain you. So you could say, hey guys, I want to refinance this car. Can we enter? I mean, if you're in year 3, can we enter into a new loan of another 5 years? So notionally going up to 8 years, but with better insurance. So you'll be paying for your car longer, but with better insurance. So they get more money, you pay less every month. So you can do that, or you can go to a different bank, which will obviously have to settle your old loan with the old bank, and then give you a new loan on when you join them on new terms, obviously.
Okay, cool. So there's a question.
I think there was a question from Sbu earlier. I think it was the first person to ask. Sorry, Pat. I know
Which one? What was the thinking behind launching Khulekani Zulu?
No, so he asked about how do you keep
how to stay innovating? How do you stay innovative during this time?
Okay, I should stop. Oh, I can't find that question, but whilst you're looking, Salah, you're looking for it, let's take another one. How should one shop around for extended warranty? I've seen bad news from third-party companies. Bad reviews, rather.
Sorry, so how do you shop around for extended warranties? Or I've seen bad reviews from. Look, it's always tricky dealing with third parties, and it's a good call to look at reviews from third parties. But there are big groups, just on the extended warranty from third parties. It's critical to obviously look at reviews. That's great. Also, there are some third parties that are approved by who work with the OEMs. So that's your first point of call, to say, look, if you're not finding common ground with your OEM, to extend your warranty and ask them if they are pre-approved third parties that they use. So that helps. And also just from other owners who drive similar cars. Sorry, for the guys on Instagram, Zoom is much more better. We do apologize. There's a link on Petrol Brands as well as Khulekani on Wheels to join the Zoom meeting. So that's much better. It's flowed. Whereas Instagram, I think now from my side, it looks a bit frozen. So that's how you get around it, to ask other people you trust, check the reviews, check the manufacturers themselves if they have any dealings with those third parties, and then go for it.
I can't hear you on Instagram, but
can you not hear me on Instagram?
I can't hear you on Instagram.
Okay, I'm back. If you can accept my request. Okay, I think we're good to go.
It says connecting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're back.
Cool. I think we're good to go. Yeah. So that was the point on warranties. Just check the manufacturers themselves, check third parties, check reviews.
Yeah, I think it's important that we get the 5G here, Alien.
Yeah.
So that these kind of things will just flow. So any closing remarks from you guys? I think we've just went over an hour right now. It's been a robust discussion, and I personally learned a lot from you guys. So any parting shots, if you have?
I think we've sort of covered everything and said our say, but we must say that we actually haven't even touched the surface. We will still, bring you more innovative new stuff that hasn't been done before. Unfortunately, lockdown has sort of blocked us from doing most of these things, but we still, posting daily. We're still communicating on a daily. And as Khulekani was saying, I mean, the network was not friendly to us, but once all of this is done and we're back to normal, we are always happy to sit down with a couple of cars and have coffee and discuss this further,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think there's an opportunity for us to do cooler things after this. Khulekani, you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, thanks to everyone who joined. We really appreciate it, and apologies again for those who are joining on Instagram to have just said to have experienced the breakdown in the network. But all in all, I think we're learning a lot from the established players, the senior guys, a whole host of them. So Justin John, Tabotami Masimola, and these are the people we can all learn from and emulate. And so that, when we're building our brands, we know exactly how to have staying power. I think Instagram has gone pear-shaped again, but how to have staying power in the space.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for your time and just sharing that knowledge with us on this platform. It's really an honor. It's just unfortunate that obviously technology has its own things, We decide one and it decides to go against what we planned. But it was really a fruitful exercise. I don't regret this happening. Like Khulekani said, we apologize for the technical difficulties that we had. But this also motivates us to do a live event, Once all of this is over, maybe we can get a car brand to sponsor, and there will be cars in the background, and we're just chatting about cars, and it will be just a beautiful vibe.
Yeah. Oh, we can do our own car meet actually. So bring our own cars and make sure like we experience different cars that people bring through. I know a lot of guys, probably some of the guys who are doing breakfast runs.
The breakfast runs.
So yeah. Here's Malume Savage. I think he's one of those guys who he reviews like exceptionally great cars. And old vintage cars that we all just have. So there is scope to definitely do a car meet with different cars, old cars, and new cars, and just learn from the different people who are bringing different things to the table. So thanks again, guys, and apologies to the Instagram guys.
Yeah, man, thank you so much, guys. But before you leave, I just want to play you something. We didn't get the opportunity in the beginning, but let's rock it now. This is the anthem. This is the Patton Brands anthem. You can dance, Khulekani. You can get up and just dance.
Our love, Salah.
Oh, wow.
Making a borders. Watch how you branded, man. A pat on the back is a pat from the man. Let it be branded, man. A pat from the pat is a pat on the